Live to the Kenny Report.
Now, rather unusually, the Greens leader Adam Bandt has been in the dirty coal-producing New South Wales Hunter Valley today, and he's unveiled a policy to pay coal mine workers half their wage if they lose their job in the transition to renewable energy. So confident are the Greens in the ability of renewable energy to generate jobs that they want a cash handout for those that end up unemployed or subsidise their transition to so-called clean jobs. This absurd proposal won't come cheaply either. The Greens say it'll cost taxpayers $62,000 per person each year, or $19 billion over 10 years. The Greens and economics, shut down one of our largest export industries, reduce our taxation revenue, but pay more out to people who you've just made unproductive. Let me bring in Senator for New South Wales, Liberal Senator for New South Wales, Holly Hughes. Thanks for joining us, Holly. What on earth are they up to? Subsidising coal miners to do something else?
It's just extraordinary, isn't it? And I think I saw earlier in the show you looked at Albanese and how confident he is in a victory in the upcoming election. And I think this policy is indicative of how confident the Greens are that they're going to be able to form the Albanese-Bandt government come the next election. This is the most ludicrous thing I think I've ever heard. And when you look at what's happening around the world today and the really dreadful circumstances we're seeing over in the Ukraine and with Russia, our ability to export energy to the world is going to become increasingly important depending on how this conflict unfolds. So to go in to the Hunter region, and I would be interested to see if Labor MP Pat Conroy, who as assistant minister, a shadow assistant minister for climate change, was recently in Copenhagen cuddling up to snowmen, and his willingness to see the end of the biggest industries in his own seat. How he represents the Hunter, I will never understand. But whether or not he was there hugging up to his mate Adam Bandt as they try and shut down local jobs.
This is the point.
This
is the point. We know that Adam Bandt, wants the power, wants the balance of power. Certainly he'll control the Senate. If Labor were to win government, they won't get anything done without the Greens in the Senate. So the Greens will have enormous influence. We know that. So each of these Greens policies, Labor will either has to own them or at least reject them before the election, or this is really a Labor policy then, to spend $19 billion on transition for coal workers.
The deathly silence that we hear from the Labor Party every time one of these Greens' crazy announcement occurs is because they are so desperate to ensure a strong preference flow from Greens in the lower house. But also, they know if there is a hung parliament and there's a 1 or 2 seat majority, issue in it, they will not be able to get into bed with Adam Bandt in the Greens quick enough. And this is what the Greens think they can deliver on the back of that partnership.
Well, we will see. We'll try and keep an eye on their kooky policies as they come out. They might even have a good policy. Who knows? We don't prejudge these things.
Oh,
now, I want to get you... Well, you never know. You never know. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. Now, I've got to talk to you about the shambles in your own party. A court decision late today suggests that the federal executive of the Liberal Party will now not step in and overrule the New South Wales state executive. It comes down to these pre-selections. This is a ridiculous, complicated fight, but it comes down to the fact that you don't have candidates pre-selected in key seats. I want to go through a few of them. Let's look at Bennelong, John Howard's old seat. It's held by John Alexander. He's retiring at this election. It's held by the Libs by almost 7%, but with Alexander going, you need a candidate in there to make sure you hang on to it. Then there's Dobell up there on the Central Coast. Only a margin of 1.5% held by Labor's Emma McBride. That's a seat that the Liberals should be trying to win to try and hang on to government. There's Hughes, where the former Liberal Craig Kelly is recontesting with the United Australia Party. Again, the Libs would have a chance to claim that one back. The majority there, the margin doesn't really matter. They've got to try and get that back from Craig Kelly. Parramatta, another narrow Labor seat where Julie Owens is on a 3.5% margin. You'd be thinking a good candidate should have been working away there for a year or more to try and win that back. And then, of course, there's Tony Abbott's old seat of Warringah, held by the independent, the Green Left independent Zali Steggall, who's in all sorts of strife for undeclared secretive campaign donations, but she doesn't have a campaign opponent from the Liberal Party yet working against it. I mean, when you're not filling these positions, Holly, it looks like the Liberals are trying to lose the election.
Chris, I spent 14 years on the state executive, and when I was a member of the state executive, I was very, very clear. The state executive, the organisation, is responsible for the cash, the campaigns and the candidates. The parliamentary team is not responsible for those, and we have very clear divisions within the Liberal Party around that. I would make the point, though, Chris, today the court decision was an administrative decision. It actually wasn't about pre-selections. It was whether or not the state executive could continue infinitum without an AGM, and that's been ruled. So anyone
sure, you know what?
Before
I hear our viewers' eyes glazing over, this is the point. I don't care about those arguments. Legal fights within the party.
Either.
The point is, in practical terms, what it's doing is stopping the federal Liberal Party running candidates in a federal election that's only 3 months away. And to that extent, you're actually abrogating your responsibility to the voters of Australia.
Well, we don't, as the parliamentary team, we don't have the say, but we do have a state executive now on the back of reforms that were passed a couple of years ago that is 29 members. Now, to get things through, they need 90%. Whoever put that together in the Constitution needs to hang their heads in shame. What is happening at the state executive if they are getting 85+% on these motions to get candidates into the field, to conduct pre-selections, yet there is a small block, and I would hesitate to guess that it could be the block that it was in court that is consistently blocking these. So when the state executive needs to take responsibility. And look, mate, I couldn't agree with you more. I want candidates, and I've got a great one in Shortland in Nell McGill, and I'm working up in that Hunter region to make sure I save those Hunter jobs.
Thanks for joining us, Senator. I appreciate it. Liberal Senator for New South Wales, Holly Hughes. The point here is, I know you don't care. I don't care. Who cares about these shenanigans inside the Liberal Party? Their court arguments.